Hello, I'm Nobby Clark. Welcome to my workshop. This is Sunday the 21st of May, and yesterday we went to our local museum. They were having an event there, and one of the people there was a gentleman that sells old tools. I gather he sources the tools from uh, garden sheds and workshops that people ask to be cleared out. And I've known him for quite a number of years now, and on a lot of occasions in the past, I've bought quite a lot of tools from him. There's a mixture of woodworking tools, garden tools, and occasionally some engineering tools as well. And this is the selection of things that I picked up yesterday. Um, just wanted to sort of share this with you. I like to get tools like this because I'm much keener on having old British or American or German tools, things that are obviously very well made and much better than you can buy nowadays. So I'm always sort of keen to get my hands on any bits and pieces like this. I do try only to buy tools that I'm actually going to use, although having said that, on occasion I've bought things that they just appeal to me as nice objects. I have done this in the past, and sometimes these things have actually come in useful. But I won't show you every individual tool. I'll try and show you the bits basically in groups because we'll be here all day otherwise. But um, what I found was some really nice old screwdrivers here, old ones with wooden handles. All of these are made in England, mostly from Sheffield, where tools of this kind would most commonly come from. I do love these. It's a reminder of my youth when I used to watch my dad in his workshop, and a lot of the tools he had were like this, and I still do have some of them. So these are just lovely things to have. And of course, the quality of the steel in these is absolutely fantastic. A couple of these are in exceptionally good condition on the points. A couple of them probably would need a little bit of tidying up, but that is a project to do that anyway. Um, One other item I found is this. I guess a lot of you will be familiar with these. This is made by a company called Woden. It's a company in the Midlands. Woden is actually an area sort of around the Birmingham area, and it's a nail push. It's used for very very well, thin, small nails, like small panel pins or veneer pins. I've got a pin here. You're not going to be able to see this because it is so small, but the object is that you drop this into the tube, and in the back here there's a magnet, so that holds the nail in place so it won't fall out. And then this is pushed against a piece of wood. And if I bring that forward, I don't know if you could see, the nail will pop out. So the idea is that could be pushed all the way into a piece of wood, or you could use it just to start the nail in position so that it could then be tapped home with a hammer. I saw this on his display, and I remember these. My dad had one of these, which I don't know what happened to it. It's possible my brother may have that. Um, there were a couple of companies that made them. This is made by Woden. There was another company called Rampin that made one almost identical to this, but because of a memory from the past, I thought, well, I've got to have that. It is actually something I would use because I do occasionally do woodwork, so it's going to have a function in the future. I picked this up. I probably will never use it. It's a gimlet. again, a sort of a woodworking tool. It just appealed to me as being such a nice object, and I've never owned one like this before, so I thought it would be very, very nice to have this for my collection. One thing which isn't particularly old. This is, although this is a Swedish-made tool, it's made by Bahco, who make spanners and wrenches as well. But it's a Torx screwdriver, and this is going to be very handy to me because this size of Torx will actually fit the Torx screws in some of the lathe tools that I've got, holding the cutting points in place, so that's going to have a good function every day I'm in the workshop. A couple of other things I found were a couple of pliers. They're both round nose pliers, but they're both good quality ones, both made in England. This one is made by a company called Toga, and this one Exolite. I guess they will have uses for me in the workshop, and I don't actually have any round nose pliers, so there'll be useful things to add to my pliers collection. A punch, no name on this, it just has some numbers on the top, but punches and drifts are always very useful for the workshop. There's a couple of nice quality reamers. They're imperial sizes, both British made, so I can add these to my collection of reamers. This object, which I'm pretty sure is a wire gauge, oddly enough, it's rather mysterious, because I would have thought that a wire gauge would have an indication on here of the gauges on it. Whether in the passage of time that's worn off, I don't know, but I'll have to do a bit of an investigation into that. But it's quite a nice object. This little tool, I'm certain this is a homemade, shop-made item. It's a tiny hook with a very, very sharp point to it. And by rubbing my finger on the metal, there's a sort of a serration on the metal all round. I'm pretty sure this was probably made out of an old file, probably formed into this shape, and then the end bent over to make the hook. Quite what it was used for, I don't really know. I mean, the tools like this, there's probably lots of uses in the workshop for an object like this. I mean, it could be used to remove gasket seals or O-rings or anything like that. There's a possibility also this might be something to do with leather work, because there were quite a few tools on the table there that sort of relate to leather working. So it could be that, I don't know, but it's such a nice thing, and it is nicely made. Somebody's gone to the trouble of making a nice wooden handle for it as well. And there were two other items which could be used by a leather worker. This tool is made by a British company called Mourne. Mourne still are around, and Mourne, one of the things that Mourne do make are parallel pliers. I mean, I do own a pair of these. They're like the American Sargent brand pliers. This end can be unscrewed, I guess, so you can empty out. Well, some bits of paper fell out, but bits of paper or leather could be dropped out through that end. So that gives you a means of pushing it into material. And this end, there's a collar that unscrews, and you can take the tool out. I mean, I imagine that when these were sold, they probably came with a set of these cutter tools of different sizes, so they could be dropped into here, and then the collar just holds them in place, and then they could be pushed or tapped, perhaps with a mallet, through leather to cut holes in a belt or something like that. And another similar, really nice item was this little punch. I think it's cast iron. It's a really nice object, and again, it could be something to be used in an office to punch holes in paper. I don't know, or it could be to punch holes in leather or similar material. But I mean, this is one item which it's so lovely. It appealed to me. I mean, it's a thing that at some point this will get used, but it's just such a lovely object to have on the shelf. Another thing I bought was, you're probably familiar with these. This is made by Eclipse. It's called a pad handle. These they can either carry a pad saw blade, or in this case, it's a metal cutting blade. It's an Eclipse blade as well. I have got a similar thing to this, but one that was an import item, probably from China, but this will replace that one. I'll give the other one I've got away. This is Eclipse made in England, and I do like Eclipse tools. I'm not convinced that the wing nut on here is genuine. All the pictures of these that I've looked up, it actually has a knob on here with a knurled grip to it. So at some point I'll replace that with one which is perhaps like ones that would have been supplied with this tool originally. But I really like that. And the other tool I've got like this is a thing that I do use quite often. There's situations where you can't use a hacksaw to cut through a piece of metal. And I've done this many times using a tool like this. Roebuck adjustable spanner. I've got several of these British made ones. This is made in Germany. Actually a quality tool, so that is something that will get used a lot by me or by my son. The little cold chisel. This is made by Coleman in the USA. Somebody has resharpened it. When I have got quite a few small cold chisels to just add to the collection, and will get used. A couple of nice, really old die holders. This one's no manufacturer's name on it, but it is quite old. This one is a Morse from America. Again, very nice one. And the small size dies are ones that I use a great deal in the workshop. A little divider. It's a little bit dirty and rusty, but that will clean up. But I picked that up. It was very inexpensive, but it does have nice points on it. So that's a thing that I do use quite often. He did have lots of taps and dies, but there were none there that really I thought I would ever use. But I did pick up a die. This is an LAL die, 5/16 by 22 BSF, and that is one that I would use. I mean, I haven't got a die in that size, but I have got taps in that size, so that will, make the setup, and obviously that is a quality one as well. So quite pleased to pick that up. It's a high-speed steel one as well, so it's going to be much better than a lot of the carbon steel ones I've got. The other rather peculiar thing I bought was this huge clamp. It's got weld splatter on it, so obviously it's been used as a welding clamp. The chap on the stand said he thought that this was probably shop made, which well, perhaps I agree with him. It probably was, but it's rather an unusual thing for me to buy, but it is something that at some point is going to come in handy. And considering this cost me £1, I didn't mind that. It's a hefty piece of metal as well for £1. The one final tool, I'm going to bring the camera in a bit closer to show you this, because this, in a way, is a bit of a mystery item. I've got some ideas on it, but I'll show you this particular item in closer in a little bit more detail, and perhaps someone will give me their thoughts on it. So bear with just a moment while I readjust the camera. This is the item in question. It was in a box of various bits and pieces. The box that had the reamers and the thread die in it. And he said, well, they're various bits of engineering tools. The end here is it's obviously some form of cutter. It's been sort of machined here through the sort of center of this little shaft here, and it's got a very, very smooth bit of machining here, and you see on the back it's got various reliefs on the back side there. It's a little bit like a D-bit cutter, but it was only on examining it that I discovered something else. If you take this brass collar off, originally this little screw here was in quite tight, and I slackened the screw off, and the screw obviously goes into this keyway here to sort of hold it in position. But the thing is, it's sprung loaded as well inside here. You won't be able to see, it's very dirty inside there. There's a spring down inside here. So when we put the brass ring back on again, with that little screw slackened off, that part is sprung loaded. So I'm wondering whether this possibly is something that could be held perhaps in the tailstock of a lathe, and whether this then would form a cutting point, perhaps for making a chamfer on a hole. I don't know. I'll bring in, I hope that doesn't go too far out of focus, but you sort of get the idea. I'm trying to do this by looking through the back of the camera. It's gone a little bit out of focus, hasn't it? It's a nice sort of knurl bit on the brass part here. Now, whether this is commercially made or shop made by an engineer, I don't know. But you see, it's got these nice sort of reliefs on the back here and on the tops. It's not sort of completely round on there like a D-bit cutter, but I don't know. I'm not really sure what it actually is, But this was £1. And I thought, well, I'll just buy this. It's a curious thing anyway, and maybe someone out there that would be able to tell me, perhaps what this is used for. But it's just an interesting item, and I thought, well, let's just bring it home with me. But there we are. Well, thanks for joining me in the workshop again today. I hope this was of interest to you. I know there's so many videos on YouTube of tools that people buy. I always watch those anyway. Mr. Pete and Tom Lipton and various people that go to in the USA to flea markets and garage sales and things like that, which we call garage sales. We don't really have those in England. But the for me, the opportunity of getting things like this is few and far between, really. The gentleman that had all these, we become sort of quite good friends, really. And obviously, perhaps I only see him once or possibly twice a year. I'm hoping he's going to come to another event at the museum later in the year. And he did tell me that he's got a box at home of taps and dies, which he said he'll bring along for me the next time so I can have a rummage through them. But he does sell things like that very, very cheaply. I mean, the die here, I don't know if I did say, he sold that to me for £1, which is remarkably inexpensive. I mean, if you needed to buy one of these, even second hand on eBay, it would cost you more than 10 times that. So I'm sort of quite pleased to have that. It's not going to get a huge amount of use, but for £1, I don't really mind. And I've not spent a fortune here. This whole lot cost me very little, really. And I suppose I'm like a lot of people out there. You just get so much pleasure from having things like this, just handling old tools when you're using them. I get a much better feeling using something like an old die holder than I would a brand new import one. Well, anyway, that's it from me today. Thanks for joining me again, and thank you again to all the subscribers to my channel and the lovely comments that I've been receiving recently. And I hope to be able to get another video for you very, very soon. So, bye-bye for now.